Hey guys, and welcome to another Age of Mythology Myth Units comparison, and in this one we'll be covering the Atlantean unit, so when you're ready grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So here are all the Atlantean myth units, and the Caladia will be excluded because it's actually a scouting unit, and so will the Servant, even though it can actually be the best water scout unit in the classical age because it can deal damage. As for the water units, I'll be briefly covering them in the end, however the main point of the video is covering the land myth units. Starting off with the classical units, we have the Promethean and the Automaton, and 1v1, the Promethean will obviously win. It doesn't even get split into two at all. It just kills it in its main form. In round 2 versus a hero, both units obviously get decimated. However, in this round, the Automaton did deal more damage than the Promethean against the hero unit, so it takes the extra point. Next up, a best out of 3 using 3 extra units being Arcuses, and the Promethean comes out on top in all 3 rounds. And finally, a round versus buildings being Barracks. It's pretty interesting to see which one deals more damage, but again, it is actually the Promethean. So despite the Automaton costing 10 more gold, the Promethean is the better myth unit option in almost every single scenario, apart from fighting against hero units. Of course, you have to take all of these tests with a grain of salt because there is no micromanaging and there isn't an actual player fighting with both of these units. Next up, we have the Heroic Age with the Satyr, Behemoth, Dryad, and Stymphalian bird, I can't pronounce that properly, but the outcome of this one is actually pretty interesting, but obvious for some of them. The bird, of course, comes out on top because some units can't even attack it, and then in second place we have the Behemoth, killing all the other units apart from the bird, then the Satyr, and finally in last place the Dryad, surprisingly one of the weakest units in this bunch. Next up, a round versus a hero unit, and the Behemoth actually stays alive for a considerable amount of time, and for that reason it did the most amount of damage against the hero unit. In second place we have the Dryad, in third place we have the Stymphalian, I'm just going to call it bird, I'm not even going to pronounce that properly, and in last place the Satyr being the weakest, to no surprise against the hero unit. Next up, fighting each other with some units, best out of 3, the bird does come out on top. The Behemoth comes in second place, the Satyr comes in third place, and the Dryad again in last place. The Dryad seems to be pretty weak against a lot of things. Of course, micromanagement would change the outcome of these tests, however, I just let the AI do its thing. And finally, a round versus a palace, and this won't be much of a surprise. The Behemoth is of course the best against buildings, then the Dryad in second place, which did surprise me, I didn't know it was good against buildings. Third place the bird, and in last place the weak Satyr. Add it all up and the score is 14 for the Behemoth, 12 for the bird, 8 for the Dryad, and the Satyr has 6. So excluding the resource cost, the Behemoth is the better unit here, but the bird is a good close second. Onto the interesting stuff, the Mythic Age with the Lampades, Argus, and Hecka Gigantus. Challenging versus each other in a one-on-one, the Argus comes out on top because of its acid attack, killing the opponent instantly. In second place we have the Hecka Gigantus, and in last place the Lampades, because it's weak on its own. Fighting against a hero unit, the outcome changes a little bit because the Argus cannot instant kill a hero unit, and the Hecka Gigantus comes out on top, with the Argus following as second place and the Lampades in last place yet again. Challenging them versus Temimilio is also pretty interesting because I've done this with the Greek units as well, and the Hecka Gigantus is really strong against Mirmillo. However, I expected the Argus to come out on top here, but that wasn't the case. The Hecka Gigantus came in first place with the Argus following second, and the Lampades, poor Lampades, got destroyed by the Mirmillo. Against a palace, the Lampades won't really do much, the Argus will do pretty well, and the Hecka Gigantus, well, they literally destroy buildings like it's nothing. As you can see in the footage, it's pretty obvious which one came first place, that's the Hecka Gigantus, second place Argus, and third place Lampades. Now if you face these units off against each other with a little army, including 3 Arcus and 5 Mirmillo, it really gets chaotic, but Best out of 3, the Heka Gigantes again comes out on top, and surprisingly, the Argus comes in last place as the Lampanus is actually better with a small little army, at least from my simple testing. That is because the Lampanus can actually use its special ability to turn an enemy unit neutral, which means it attacks anything in its sight, including yourself, but if micromanaged properly, you can make it so that you can take over your enemy's strongest units and turn them against them. Now, as you can see from the score, the Heka Gigantes is the best, but it's also the most expensive at 300 gold, 25 favor, and 5 population. The other two are 250 gold and 25 favor, and also 5 population. However, for just 50 more gold per unit, the Heka Gigantes is an extremely versatile unit for the Atlantean factions, or gods. As for the water units, the main ones, I quickly want to cover them. The Man of War is pretty bad for being a Mythic Age water unit. It gets clapped by a regular Kraken, not even upgraded, but the Nereid is one of the best water myth units in the game, and when used, it can pretty much beat any water unit one-on-one. It might die in the process, but it's just really powerful. The Man of War is only really good against a bunch of ships as a support myth unit, and it can be used to kind of do damage against docks, but it really isn't much, and you're better off using siege ships. Anyways, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this little myth unit comparison video. I tried to make it as short as possible as some of the previous ones were pretty long. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.